pinch pots right there. And you can see that I painted them, and I have them, I put them on this cardboard here, and I sprayed them with a clear spray paint. And they're pretty dry. Yeah, they're dry enough that we can string them together, but I'm going to show you how to string them together right now. Okay, so let's start. Okay, so I've got my piece of fishing line. It's about 4 foot long, and that's way more than enough. I'm going to start with my tail, and I'm going to tie my tail on here. And sometimes it's hard to tie this fishing line, especially you got big old fingers like me. I find sometimes people with little fingers do art better in some ways. Oops. But this fishing line can be a little bit tricky and hard to see. Okay, so I've got this on here. I can trim this off a little bit later. Okay, and what I want to do is I'm going to put my first pinch pot on, my smallest pinch pot. And here we are right here. I'm just going to place it in here. Tell you what, let me grab my glasses. I can't see worth a darn. That's what happens when you get about 45. You notice your sight is not what it used to be. I used to have pretty good sight, but now I don't. Part of getting old, I guess. Okay, let me make sure here. Okay, so I'm going to feed that up here. Now this is the only one that I don't need a bead for. So you can see I have this on here and I don't need a bead. Now the next one I'm going to need a bead, and I'll explain why I need the bead. Okay, it doesn't matter what color the bead is, and I've included some different kinds of beads with yours. This is just a very basic bead, but I have some cooler looking ones in your packet. Some of those purple ones that look pretty cool. It really doesn't matter because you really don't see them. Okay, what I want to do is I'm going to string this bead on there. And the reason I string this bead on here is because I don't want my pinch pots to be very close. I want them to kind of sit farther apart. Now I don't want to just put my next pinch pot on here. What I want is when I put this pinch pot on here that it'll barely touch right here. And if I just put it down on top of this, it's going to go way over this. So I have to make my bead stick up a little bit further. And so because I want them to just touch, just like this, barely touch, I want this bead to come up a little higher. So to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of want to place the bead where I want it to be. So I want it to be a little bit higher on the string. And I put my string through it, and I'm going to bring my string up through it again. And we used to make these out of clay, these beads, but we have a whole bunch of them in the art department, so I stopped doing that. Okay, so I have my bead. You see it's just a little bit higher, and what I want is when I put this down here, I want this bead to sit, the pinch pot to sit on the bead. And I know you guys can't see that very well. So I actually even want the bead to be up a little bit higher than this. So I'm just going to pull it up a little bit. Now I'm going to string it back through here again. I'm going to go through, loop it again. Sorry, this is not the best view for this, but it's what I have available. This is a pretty good view for drawing, but some of my clay projects, my 3D projects, it's not quite as good. Okay, so I'm going to string it up through one more time. And so I've got this bead kind of high up here, and I've strung it through twice. I'm going to do it one more time, 3 times. I'm going to string it around this. And this fishing line gets a little bit crazy, but because it just rolls up on you, but it really is pretty good for this. Okay. So we're just bringing this up again. Okay, so I've wrapped this around several times now. And once I've done that, I want to go ahead and put my next pinch pot on there. So now you can see that my pinch pot's not sitting right up on top of that. They hit just a little bit, they cover a little bit, but that's what I want. That's exactly what I want to do. So now I need another bead. And again, it doesn't matter what color you get because you don't see the beads. The bead is just like a little stopper that keeps the pinch pot from sitting on each other, because we don't want that. Our fish would be really, really short if we did that. Okay. So now, fighting with this fishing line, it tends to win. I kind of want to look at my next pinch pot and see how high I need to get this bead, you know, because what I want it to do is I just want it to sit up here so that this barely touches here. And again, I know you can't see that well, but I want it to sit up like right about here so that it just barely goes over here. So I have to set up my bead high enough, and sometimes I just kind of have to look at my pinch pot and look where the bead is and say, okay, does that look about right? And if it doesn't, on my first stringing through, I just go ahead and move it a little bit and try to manage this fishing line. I got paint all over my fingers today. I was painting a little. Okay, so I have it through again. That second time, I want to just double check, make sure I'm okay with the placement of this. I feel pretty good about that. I think it's okay. And I'm going to string it through one more time. You can start to hear it jingle a little. Okay, now I can put my next one on there. Let's get my next pinch pot. Notice how I just painted these all a little bit different. You know, you could paint them all the same color if you want, but I just decided I wanted something different, you know, more interesting. And hopefully you got all your holes going through here fine. Mine's going through, but I just can't get this. There we go. Couldn't get that fishing line to go through there. Okay, so now we're getting there. Okay, and if you look at mine right here, now that this is on here, I'm feeling like it's a little bit high. You know, when I look at it, it's just a little bit too high, I think. So if that happens, if you put it on here just like, oops, I want it to barely touch here, just like that. And it's not quite doing that. It's just a little bit, I don't know. If you feel like it's not right, just pull it off. See if you can take, you know, your bead down a little bit and pull it down a little bit. It kind of be hard to do, but it can be done. Kind of have to just kind of loosen that up and then try to pull it. Oh, I pulled it. I might have done it too much though. We'll see. It looks about right now. So don't be afraid that if it doesn't seem right to take it apart and just do it again. I know some of you guys are saying, oh, Mr. M, I don't want to take it apart. I've spent so much time on this. It takes time, you know, and to do a good job, it may take you a little extra time. That's fine. Just do it. That's what we're supposed to be doing in this class. Oh, I think that's a little bit better. A little bit better there. So now what I can do is I can go with my next bead. And again, it doesn't matter what color it is, because you don't see it. So I'm going to get the end of my string, and again, it's kind of unruly, this string, but you'll get it. Like I said, especially if you don't have big old fingers like me, it's much tougher for me to do this than it is some things. I think my kids would call them big old fat fingers, sausage fingers. Okay, so I'm looking at it, trying to measure how high this bead is, and if it's gonna be right. I feel okay about that. So I'm gonna go ahead and string it through again. And remember, you wanna do this 1, 2, 3 times. If you don't, your beads might move. So I'm gonna do it again. String it through. Uh-oh, my bead did move on that time. So I gotta move this down. That's probably what happened to me last time. I think my bead moved because I thought I had it pretty good, and then all of a sudden it didn't look so good. So I'm gonna remeasure, make sure it looks right. It's still a little high. See if I can push it down a little. Okay, that's pretty good. So I'm gonna bring it through again. So you got to do this 3 times. If you don't do it 3 times, the beads will slip. Now some of you, I gave you kind of small beads with small holes. You may not have as much problem with it slipping, but the beads that I have here got these really large holes, and they tend to slip a little bit more. So if you have some really small holes in your beads and you can't get it through a 3rd time, then just go 2 times, and that'll be okay. Because if the hole's that small, it should grab it a little bit more, and you may not have that problem. Okay, let's see what I got here. Keep dropping it. Okay, I got another one on there. So look. So you don't want to so they're strung and they're strung away from each other. You want them so they're strung and they're close and they touch, but barely. Because your fist's going to be really tiny if they're all stacked on top of each other really tight. Now some of you guys are going to turn in your fish and you're going to have these really, really tight on here. I don't want that because it doesn't look as good. And I'm afraid your grade will not be as high if you do that. So just be aware. You know, if you want a good grade, try to do it like I ask. And the reason why we do it this way is because, you know, I've done this project many years. And when you've taught art for like 30 years, you know, you learn a few things. Hopefully I've learned a few things. And I think that I've developed some skills. Oh, my bead moved again. That second time I pull it up, it just wants to move on me. So again, I'm just gonna kind of measure up here and see how high it would be if I string it like this. Go a little bit lower. And then I adjust my bead accordingly. And then make sure I go down through the 3 times if I can. If you have a really little hole in your bead and you can only get it twice, that's okay. You know, do the best you can. Okay, so I got it around 3 times. And I'm going to continue with my next one. This is why also we try to make really big holes in these pinch pots, like with a toothpick, because it's easier to string, first of all. But when we did these with glaze, we would have a lot of students that would glaze the top of these, and then the glaze would fill the hole. And it was a real problem. And sometimes I would have to try to drill it out for them, and you can't drill clay with a regular bit. You have to have a masonry bit or it just breaks. And a lot of times it breaks anyway. Okay, so I've got another one on there. So now I'm going to go with another one, another bead. Go through 2 times real quick. Pull my bead down to where I think I need it, even though I've had it moving on me a lot. And then again, I hold it up and I kind of place my pinch pot there and say, okay, does that look about right where I want it to be? That looks pretty good. Then I can get my string up through it again, and remember you do that 2 times. I'll double check that again. It may have moved a bit on me. Move it down a little bit. If you're not sure, check it twice. You know what they say, measure twice, cut once. Same kind of thing. Okay, I'm going to try it one more time. 3 times is the charm. Okay, let's get this other one up through here. Let's check it again. Still seems like it's moved up on me. I'm a little bit worried that it's a little bit high. I'm going to see if I can pull it down a little. I think I did. It's jingling. Okay, let's go through it again. If you're not sure and it moves on you, then stop, take a look at it, and see. Make a judgment, I guess. Okay, I think we're okay. Let's put it on here and see. So I would say it takes you 20 minutes to a half an hour to string this thing together. Sometimes it's tough to get this fishing line through. Okay, that's not too bad. Take a look at that. Okay, we need another bead. Now I would suggest painting them before you string them together. I mean, I guess you could string them together and paint them, but I think it's better not to. But you can decide. I will let you make that decision. I always say when kids ask me what to do, I'm like, well, you're the artist. You decide. Could go up a little bit higher, but might move on me anyway. And I'm starting to get through my string pretty good too, but I have plenty left. Oops. Strung that through and then lost it. Thought I strung it through. Maybe I didn't. Okay, yeah, it's moving on me. I pulled it right up. Okay, that's okay. Stringing it one more time. Once you get it the third time, usually you're in pretty good shape. Oops. Got it caught around my scissors. Okay, let's get the third one on there. Or the next one on there, the next pinch pot. Okay. Let's get another bead. Pretty good. This is always a little tricky stringing these because you have to lay them down and they're just moving all around. Let's try to get it through again here. Now that it's a little bit, sometimes I like holding it while I string it. Sometimes I just like putting it on the table. So you can try it both ways. See what works for you. Okay, let's put the next one on there. Okay, we're getting there, making some headway. Okay, our last bead. This one's going to be a little bit different. Sometimes you just have a hole in your head. It's just like doing the other ones. But I've got something a little bit different because I wanted to make it like an open mouth. And so I did it a little bit differently. If you made yours with just has a hole in it, it'll be just the same. Okay, I've got my final string tied on here, and I just tied it on the inside here. I have another bead I tied on there, and I can try to, if this is showing up too much, I could take a little hot glue and tuck this down here and just hot glue it down there if I want to. You don't hardly see it. And then here what I like to do is I'd like to pull these strings up here together and then make a little loop so I can use it as a little hook. Oh, there's the bell again. So I can make it as a little hook. So I've got my fish all tied up here, ready to go.